Welcome back to Chris and Retro. Tonight, I'm pretty excited about our guests we have on. I gave you a prelude to it yesterday. We talk about fellow travelers and the people that we meet, and you don't know who you're going to meet along the line. My guest tonight, we have a mutual friend named Brian Yates. You've seen him. We did the show 100 Proof Living together. He's been a guest on my guest show. He's a very dear friend of mine and has introduced the two of us. And tonight, what we want to do is share some pretty remarkable stories from Jeff's life and try to give you some hope and options, regardless of where you're at. If you're living a high risk life and you think you got it all together, sometimes it falls apart. When you're there, there's hope in your very next move. And there's definitely a message of hope in this story tonight. Please welcome to the show, Jeff Mugongo and Matt Prater.
Yes.
Welcome, guys.
What's good, everybody?
Thanks for having us.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming on. So, Matt, we determined before the show started here that Matt's got one leg that's massively huge. He can kick a ball 65 yards accurately, which is impressive. You play for the Arizona Cardinals, and Jeff, you're a physical trainer. Obviously, I see you're a boxer.
An entrepreneur as well.
Okay, so let's get into your backstory and some of the things that have been going on. I know that when we first met, you'd been in a pretty terrible motorcycle accident, and that was kind of a defining moment in your life, I guess.
It was absolutely a defining moment in my life, especially in my journey. I grew up. I was born in a rural area, like in a refugee camp. My story. That's where my story begins. Talking about hardship and adversity. Poverty is one of the biggest thing that is taking over most parts of the world. And being in a refugee camp, you have to overcome that, have patience in order to see the other side. But we made it here in 2010 and to the United States. And after all those years, I found my calling in physical personal training and just coaching as well. I saw it as an entrepreneur. I love to create and bring value into the world. So one day, just coming back from work, I was going home and a car turned right into my left leg. And at that moment, that's when everything changed. That's when sometimes things happen and you don't know why they happen to you, but you're in it.
This was 2022, right?
The motorcycle accident?
Yeah.
The motorcycle accident happened in 2022.
Okay.
2022. Yeah. June 7th. Yeah. So it just kind of dates. It has been, life has been moving so fast that it just crazy how life happens.
Well, I find it interesting how you can easily broad brush some of the things you just described when they sound like a pretty remarkable story. I don't know how, I know a lot of people complain about a lot lesser things, and you're talking about coming here in a refugee camp, becoming an entrepreneur, the grind of all those things, surviving, getting here, doing the work that you're doing, being an entrepreneur, getting a name for yourself. That alone is a challenge. Then to have this accident and then to come beyond it. I mean, those things that you've done are pretty remarkable, honestly. So what do you think? What would you attribute? What is it about you that makes you able to overcome those types of things on what seems to be a fairly routine matter?
Wow, it's a good question. Sometimes, since I mean it so much, it's just sometimes it's the way I see life. Maybe I grew up in a very tough environment. I feel like that really did me justice to know that in adversity I can overcome, and just that mindset of no matter what you face, you if you have that warrior mindset, you can truly overcome whatever you go through. And it just also having amazing friends like Matt Prater, encouraging you consistently, supporting you, sharpening you up. I believe in iron sharpens iron. I realized that we can't go through what we go through, especially when it comes to a traumatic event like that, we can't go through what we go through alone.
Right.
And we need somebody to see strength in us for us to truly overcome and have a different mindset towards the adversity, towards the situation.
So Matt, how did you guys connect?
We got connected through my son, who's 8 now. His little Pop Warner team, Jeff was coaching. So in between, like, practice or whatever, I get a day off from training camp. I try to go to anything and everything I can for my kids.
Sure.
And Jeff was coaching them, and then we just kind of hit it off with that. And then we actually coached together the next year. We coached together in the spring.
That's awesome.
Yeah, no, it was cool. And then it just going back to something I think you asked earlier, but I think the thing what attracted me to Jeff is his energy. He's always positive. The glass is always half full. It's never half empty. It's every day's a great day type. That's what I think about Jeff, that he's just always upbeat, positive type guy.
That's what I've noticed, and I was just curious about how you guys connected that way. So he wasn't a bad coach, then, is what you're telling me. you weren't that Friedman dad.
He was all right, and then when we started talking, and he was telling me he's a personal trainer. So then we actually started lifting weights together in the office.
Oh, okay. You guys ever seen that movie Kicking and Screaming with Will Ferrell?
Oh yeah.
So you were the Mike Ditka, and he was Will Ferrell.
Yeah, I never thought about it that way.
Yeah, don't give kids any finches.
Yeah, no, it was absolutely an honor. The funny thing is, when I was coaching speed and agility prior to me coaching Pop Warner team, and coaching Little League is so different because you deal with so many things. You don't just deal with football in Pop Warner. You deal with the parents, the fundamentals of coaching a youth. And due to the passion that I had in helping out the youth, and that opportunity itself presented itself into coaching, to being a head coach in Pop Warner. Mm-hmm. I didn't play football growing up. I didn't, I got picked in high school because I had speed. I ran track and field, and I was strong. So I got picked to play DN. Okay. But I was like, because I was fast, track was my sport. A guy fall, we tackled the quarterback, and everybody came and they fall on my leg. Thought I was gonna break it. Then I was like, oh, I gotta prioritize track and field. The funny thing is, they came to my mama's house, asked her if I can play for my high school team. Never played football before, and literally, my mom, after this accident happened, my mom was like, "Oh, Jeff, you should play football because your leg was going to get broken anyway. If this happened, then
your contract would have been bigger, right?"
Right. So I kept thinking, I was like, oh.
I have to imagine that you two coaching together probably presents some unique parenting challenges, because everybody already thinks their kid's going to be a professional athlete anyway. So I'm sure that it levels up that expectation.
Well, you got to remember too, we're coaching 5 to maybe 9-year-olds.
Oh yeah.
So half the kids, this is 11-on-11 full tackle. It's like legit football.
Yeah.
And half the kids don't know left and right, but they all want to be the running back and the quarterback. And it's like we had to have a meeting with the parents. Hey, parents, if your kid doesn't know left and right, I'm sorry, but at our playbook of 8 plays in total.
Yeah.
If you don't know left and right, I'm sorry, you can't play running back or quarterback.
Yeah.
I mean, they can put bumpers up at bowling, but football, it doesn't work out real well.
Right. No. But the most beautiful thing, though, Chris, is that you have a guy here who never played football but coached, speed, how to really get these kids to perform at their best. Uh-huh. And you have an NFL legend right here with a lot of knowledge. So how do you combine that knowledge?
Matt almost just go off the camera. You said legend. He's like, that's an old joke. I'm out of here.
But it just it's, you have this guy and knowledge in football. Uh-huh. How do you get someone who's passionate about coaching the youth, coaching the young adults, and a father who just there, who also wants their kid to do their best in there, but also use that same spirit in coaching other youngins, because you know the attention span of
Yeah, but I think that what you're being is present. So my whole community is the addiction community. Unfortunately, we're going through a trying time in my home right now. My fiance is in long-term rehab. She faces a lot of issues that are coming up in her life because of her addiction. I'm a recovering alcoholic, but I do a lot of work in the recovery community, and my community has a lot of people that have no dads around, no coaching program, no coaches show up. There's no programs for them. And the fact that you're present, regardless of whether it's the most skilled football that they're learning the fundamentals of having somebody that actually gave a crap to show up in something they might actually enjoy doing someday. And I think that the volume there, when we look at what kids are facing and the choices they're making, we have to invest in them in a way so they know different choices to make. Even if they're not the greatest football player in the world, they're at least having men that know how to invest curbs in front of them and some discipline, and says, okay, you know what, these easy options that you've seen from your uncles and your grandfathers and your dads don't necessarily have to be the path you have to go down. There's other options. And I think that that's, to me, standing ovation material, the fact that both of you guys would stand up and be there consistently and recognize that there is structure, there is discipline. You are going to go tackle somebody. It's going to hurt if you don't do it right. You do have to know left and right. But we're in this like participation award world, and it doesn't fly. And where it ends up is a bunch of kids just vacillating based on whatever they feel. And so being present to me, I think, is massively important. And then being present in a way that invests in a kind and loving way with discipline. And it sounds to me like you are. I mean, Jeff, you're obviously, your spirit, and Matt attests to it. He obviously knows you better than I do. You have this positive energy about you that's something that draws people in. You have that spirit of attraction, and we want to know what you have and why it is that you behave the way you do. That's going to be good for kids, except for the old jokes you're making with Matt right here in front of everybody.
My bad. I think you described it really, really well. It comes down to that. Mm-hmm. It comes down to just being present in front of a young life that probably goes through a lot of things at home, but can have a break. Let me just say that, can have a break in football.
Yeah.
And can really have that discipline as well.
Well, I don't know how it was where you guys are, but where it was out here, people lost high school experiences and elementary school experiences and everything else through the pandemic. They stayed in houses that were toxic environments for them. We had, the amount of kids that went through a major depressive event after that was extraordinary. And 97% of them, I think SAMHSA put out a report that 97% of them didn't get any help. So now they're the adults entering the workforce, or kids in college. They're having children at some point. So our roles as men in kids' lives, I think, is substantial.
Boom. That part, it's so substantial, especially as men.
Yeah.
And men need to know that if we, especially men, because being men, we know that how we were raised was different. We didn't have a lot of resources back then. We didn't have we had the most, like, the principles. We went through certain principles to get us to where we are, to have the resilience and the disciplines we have now. We had to go through it. But the kids nowadays, they have everything. They have so many resources to grab from. Mm-hmm. There's so many things out there that are influencing them. But and the principles are being forgotten. So if men as responsibilities, our responsibility is to stand on those things that truly built us to where we at, and, right, and give it to and give that root, that seed, to the youth, because I do believe that our future is the youth.
So you talked about something early on here I think is pretty important. I'm just curious a little bit more about this. So I'm a firm believer in three components that make a life structure work. So for my example, I was homeless in 2017. I have 13 leadership awards before that with companies like Johnson & Johnson, Becton Dickinson, and everything else. But my addiction left me homeless, penniless, sleeping in a cemetery. The other side of that required something else for me to get my life back. And I did. I got my career back and everything came back, but it took some work. It took three major components: mindset, the action plans I have, and the promises I keep. And those three things together, I was able to put my life together. You talked about mindset right out of the gate, and that's always going to make me peak up. So you said you have a warrior mindset. I'm curious what you mean by that, because you can imagine in the world that we're in right now, where, you know, warrior means one thing to one set of people and warrior means another thing to another set of people. And I think somewhere in the middle there, warrior isn't always. Brian, our friend Brian, he's always harped on me about meekness, because I'm more one that, like, for my family, I'll go gnaw through concrete to go save their lives, you know. But he's one that comes back and says meekness is also a warrior. So I'm just curious, you know, what your view of warrior is, if that's a mindset that you have.
That's right. So I talk about warrior mindset a lot, and I have a podcast called Warriors Ways.
Yep. And
many people might think that, was he in the military? Was different? No, I was never in the military. I never fought in a war. I never went out there and never served. But which I truly honor the ones who have served, the ones who truly risked their life for the good of our freedom and the good of humanity. In today, I honor and respect those men and women that went on our front line and say, I'm here to fight for my country. Now that's a warrior mindset. Now, for me, as a man who didn't serve but talks about the warrior mindset, I talk about the warrior mindset, understand the warrior that went on our front line had to have this mindset, had to say, okay, I have to embody my faith. I have to have faith. Okay. In order for me to go in that battle, in that arena, I have to have faith that it won't be on my strength. Okay. That I'll survive the storms that will come at me. In this human body, I will not have enough strength to overcome certain storms in life. Agreed. Especially in real battle. So you have to have faith. Now, second, we talked about discipline. A warrior a person needs to strongly embody and stay disciplined. Discipline comes with everything we do on a regular basis, especially that first thing we do when we wake up in the morning, that first step we allow in our minds that will take us through the whole day. That first step, that first word, that first thing we do determines the whole day, on how the whole day will be. So to be able to stay disciplined in your routine that you know is going to set you for success.
Yep.
That's a warrior mindset, that discipline. And I'm trying to teach this to the young ones, to the youth that I coach, is if they embody discipline and not have lazy movements or
habits.
Yeah, lazy habits in the arena, they will perform at a highest level no matter the age. And we've seen this many times. We install this discipline continuously, every practice,
right,
to make sure that when these kids are performing, they show discipline in their practice, especially in their game.
It sounds to me like, you know, it's a similar thing to other areas. You know, if they're seeing progress for themselves, they're more motivated to produce more progress, and that I think discipline around that. You know, Matt, are you sharing a similar like thought process? I'm not trying to. If you guys don't share the same thing, I don't want to pick a fight here between the two of you. But you guys, I mean, is that your thinking as well on this, or how do you approach? I mean, you've got your career has been extraordinary. You know, I mean, the Cowboys probably hate you, but your career has been extraordinary. I'm curious, you know, what your thoughts are on this type of thing.
My thoughts as far as coaching the boys is like, for one, they're, like I said, they're 5 to 9 year olds. I'll just keep it as simple as possible so they can play fast. I'm all about positive encouragement. If I have to go out there and yell at the kids, they're not going to be having fun. I'm not having fun. I'm not a yeller and screamer to begin with. So if my coaching style is all about the positive reinforcement, no matter what. And if you ask someone to do the same thing, ask them to, like, hey, on this one, as soon as the ball's snapped, I need you to step to your left. If I give you 3 chances and you step to the right 3 in a row, like, I'm not going to yell and scream at you. I'm just going to put someone else in that spot.
Yeah, I got it.
And so
they get the point without the berating.
Right. So I just think with the kids, I want them to have fun. I want them to be excited to come to practice, where they know they're gonna learn and get better, and not dreading coming to practice and worried about getting yelled at or screwing something up. Like, we're all about being positive for especially.
Well,
for the young guys.
I think that setting out the day thing is really important. I'm going to show you something real quick. I harp on this, and if you ever tune in this is my journal. I can't see it real well here, but I do the same journal. I buy the same thing from Walmart. I put stickers on it every single time. I've been doing this since September 11th of 2017 when I left rehab. It has the exact same components in it every day. I start with goals, something positive about myself to remind myself I'm not a complete scumbag. Thanks. Like, I try to remember that there are things to be thankful for in my worst days. And then I have a prayer list because that's an area where I can invest in the lives of other people. And also in there over the years, I've also incorporated 6 check boxes. The first one is bag, because I do my heavy bag workout every day. I do a short for the show. I work on my book and my blog. Then I do the show itself. And then I have a budget area, so I'm being fiscally responsible. And then I make sure that I'm reading the Bible every single day. And if I start the day that way, that's my flight plan. I can tell you without I keep every single one of them since 2017. They're all stacked in shelves and everything else. But I can tell you that when I've gone through times where I have not been holding it together, those pages are darn near blank because I'm not setting the course. And it's a diagnostic for my mental health and my well-being. If I'm not starting in the morning on point, I just wander, and it turns into multiple days of wandering. And
that's what I call the warrior mindset, Chris, because being a pro player, you have to have this routine and this mindset to perform at the highest level, and how you are, and a person needs to truly, like, be self-aware of themselves and scan their body, scan their mind, and allow things that build you up to be a routine of yours. Things that build you up, not things that makes you comfortable. Because once you go to things that make you comfortable, you're trapped.
I'll go backwards every single time. If my life's getting too easy, and I apparently naturally seek out trouble. I don't mean to, but stuff just seems to happen. But I find when I'm just kind of cruising along, trouble's coming. I'm not somebody, I can't sit and just float in the water. I have all kinds of problems when I do.
Yeah.
There has to be progress made every day, at least in some aspect. That's
right. And so one thing I want to mention is that, Chris, when you're doing that, see, you have your routine. And if you don't do your routine, something just goes off.
Yeah.
So that routine, Chris, is, I call it, you read the Bible talks about the armor of God. Literally what you do, you add it on to the armor that God has given you. And when you put that armor on, like you say, writing your journal, writing prayer, Bible, read Bible scriptures, and maintaining in that, you're putting that armor of God that will protect you from going outside yourself, from going outside a place where you don't want to be. And I strongly encourage everybody to truly seek the benefits and really search on the benefits of creating a healthy routine, and making sure that you find that as an easy thing. It's not a chore. It's just your secret. It's a secret that you embody for yourself to be able to perform at a higher level. You don't have to perform you can perform in business. You can perform as an athlete. You can perform as a person, as a father. You can perform, as a brother. It's that you will say that will set you so far.
Yeah, I think wrapping yourself, for me, my journey sees God as a king. He's not a religious construct for me. I needed a king to I needed somebody that I would have to bow before. Otherwise I become my own deity.
That's
I
right.
quickly become my own deity. I can do that so stinking fast. And so I see God as a king. And my last incarceration, I couldn't remember really where things were in the Bible. And somebody handed me a Bible. I actually have it right here. This is the Bible I have from that. This is the Bible I got in jail, my last time in jail. And Psalm 46 in there, I was the first thing I opened up because I remember David was like somebody that he wrote, which I'm writer, so I related. He was music. He was a warrior. He was like, historically, he would just burn the whole stinking village down when he come in. So I related to his tenacity. Wow. And he got himself in trouble liking women. So I kind of saw that. He was like, all right, well, he's got a problem. And so I related to his humanity. And so I went to Psalms 46 and read it. And because I just couldn't figure out how to deal with things. And at that point in time, it became very clear to me that God comes to me as my refuge and strength exactly where I'm at. So I'm in the middle of the battlefield, bruised, bloodied, messed up because I did everything I could to screw up my life. And he still comes to me right there and wraps his arms completely around me. And that's my king. And that's who I serve. And I'm not ashamed of it. I've lived a different life, and I haven't always done the things I'm supposed to be doing. But when it comes to the spiritual component of life, if we do not embrace that, we're just wandering around, I believe.
Chris, you're so right, man. And I talk about warriors mindset, warriors ways. You found a way, and in the middle of your darkness.
It was presented to me by a fellow traveler. That's the thing. Somebody that came along and said, "Hey, read this." I'm like, "What's that?" Wow. It's like, "What do I do with this?" So I just started reading. I was bored, but I think that it sounds to me like a lot of the things that you guys, the way it's being applied there, I'm seeing as well. The other thing too, I just want to encourage this audience as well. We've talked about this to the audience, and I mean, it sounds like some things with you. When you're aligned spiritually correctly, there's a lot of things you couldn't plan for that become a tremendous encouragement to you, but also conviction to you. This weekend, I don't want to make this story about me, but I also want to just be relatable to what you've gone through a little bit. So my fiance in 2016 was shot twice, and the father of her child was shot 6 times in the head and killed. She was 1 month from delivering my stepdaughter, who turned 7 in a month, 1 month and a half. I've been the only father she's known for 5 years. So that was on streets called North Clinton and Burbank here in Rochester, New York. And this weekend, I was going to an overdose vigil with a friend of mine who runs an organization called Recovery Always. Her name's Stephanie Forrester. Stephanie Forrester's last use of heroin was behind the building that Sam was shot in front of, and they didn't even know each other. They're not the same age, anything, but it was in that exact same location in Rochester. These 2 events happened, and many years later, they met each other.
Yeah.
This weekend, I went down there to this vigil, and they have purchased a building on the corner on that street corner, and that's where they held this vigil for overdose this weekend. And I didn't know it until I pulled up in this Uber and got out. And I mean, this is in a rough area of the city. You can't, once you're in there with an Uber, you can't get an Uber that's going to come get you back out. You actually have to walk down to a few churches, and they can get you back out. But the thing is, like, if you look at what the spiritual nature of what happened was that in this baffling moment, all these things collectively came through and showed the power of that circumstance was being used for good. All those bad things that happened that whole time was being used for good for people that just were coming to look for food, and they heard how to get better just a little bit more.
Yeah.
And that's what God is to me, and where I've seen that spiritual component work. Without it, I just wander around, Yeah.
Chris, that's so crazy, man, because when I got hit on a motorcycle, I chose to. I was choosing to go to church. I was choosing when to connect with the Holy Spirit and God. But when I got hit on that motorcycle, laying there, blood all over the place, my legs all out, Chris, life is flashing over you. You look down on your legs, and I'm like, wow, I can't believe that.
Did you get burned?
Is this it?
Did you get burned at all? A lot of times the guys I know that dump their bikes get a lot of the oil and stuff gets out on them too. Did you get any of that, or was it just
So when I got hit, I flew 20 feet in the air. I let go of the motorcycle. The motorcycle ended up underneath the truck.
Matt could have kicked further than that.
Yeah. As I let go of the motorcycle, I flew 20 feet in the air.
Jeez.
Yeah. And when the motorcycle ended up underneath the truck, my body ended up at the sidewalk.
That probably saved your life.
Man, it saved my life.
Mhm.
But you know, both of my legs were out. So when I flew, I landed on my right leg, and the weight of my body took on that one leg, the stronger leg I had, and that's when it fractured as well.
Mhm.
But it felt like literally an angel carried me to the sidewalk when I got hit. It's so crazy. So the way I survived and they rushed me to the hospital, and the third night out there, the wounds were very fresh. That's when I encountered the spirit, man, God, really. I, I'm taking this because people would think that I'm crazy, but I strongly think that I saw Jesus, man. So in the middle of the night, through the third night in the hospital after that, my body could not take the pain.
I can't
I
imagine.
Yeah, so I completely went out and into this dream. Okay, completely went out into this dream, and maybe it was a dream, maybe because that's the only thing I could feel. I went into this darkness, and darkness was heavy, like the enemy. And all of a sudden, I saw a chair right in front of me. Okay, in that chair was darkness,
Hmm.
and that darkness was shooting arrows, like it was shooting all these things: fear, doubt, and all, like worry. I was literally scared, shaking. My body was shaking like crazy.
I'm sure.
And then like my mama was sitting next to me. So I'm thinking, I was thinking that I was calling out mom, like mom. Oh, really? I was in the spirit, in the darkness, and uh, thinking that I'm screaming and thinking that I'm trying to call out my mom for help. Remember, like when I was vulnerable, so both legs were out. So my mom was sitting there, was looking at her. Is she gonna help me? Because it felt like I was being attacked like no one, like never before. Like
Uh-huh.
the spirit wanted me to submit to that darkness. You know, I think that's, and I was so tired because I felt like I was fighting. I was fighting the spirit on my own and shaking. And not until I felt so tired, and literally I stopped fighting in my spirit, and I completely gave up. And I looked up, and I didn't look up. I just was like, okay, Lord, I surrender. I surrender. I can't fight this battle alone.
Uh-huh.
Literally surrendered. And the Bible talks about surrendering. So, but for me, I was literally surrendering in real life, fighting for my life, fighting for my.
Right.
I got to a point where those pain medications that they give you, you know, they give you pain medications like crazy to manage
Right.
to manage pain, and I couldn't
Which is,
handle it.
which
It
is
was
dangerous
so
too.
heavy.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you
That
see
can
my
be.
scores, it's crazy.
Yeah, that can be dangerous too. You know, from our world for sure.
Yeah,
Um, you know, I talked about Sam. I mean, she was on the U.S. ski team as a kid and blew out her knee. So the medication they gave her is what started to lead to her drug addiction. But
yeah,
I mean, those pain meds, I mean, they're super powerful things. But I believe, you know, that there's a point of surrender that we have to have spiritually and physically before we can ever heal. I mean, there's that place.
absolutely.
I mean, my recovery, I remember in August of 2017, running up a hill, or 2018. Was it 17? I think it was 2018. No, it was 17. I was running up a hill. I was running down the hill and I was running back up the hill because I was trying to get in shape. So I thought at the time I was facing 7 years in prison. I'm thinking I better get back in shape. I was an amateur fighter for a while, and I said, thinking I'm going to have to be doing a little bit of fighting, so I better get back in shape. So I was
Yeah,
running back up the hill in this August heat, and I'm thinking, man, it's a lot easier to run downhill than it is. It's easier to go get in a mess than it is to run out of this freaking mess. And I
yeah,
remember just stopping on the side of the road and praying to God and literally doing an inventory of every single thing that was worrying me
yeah,
and saying, take
yeah,
this, take
yeah,
this, take this. And I literally went through the whole stinking thing. And it turned out well. I mean, I ended up by that last time was only 6 months. It wasn't a big deal, but you know, I got a longer post release. But the point of it is that surrender is what he was asking for from me. He wasn't asking for a shorter sentence. He wasn't asking for even my sobriety necessarily. He was asking for me to surrender.
Yeah.
And so in your situation, it sounds like you were being asked to surrender.
Yes, but for me, I wasn't being asked. For me, it was like a big choice that I had to make in that battle. And so as soon as I surrendered and said, Jesus, literally said that name. There's power in that name.
Absolutely.
I said, Jesus, okay, I surrender. And in real life, when you surrender, you feel like you're giving up. But in that moment, you're not. That surrender is not giving up. When you surrender in battle,
our version of surrender as men is we're tapping out. We're not tapping out. We're turning it over. There's a different surrender when it comes to God. We're actually just saying, look, you're stronger than me. You're the only one that can take care of this here. Take that, please, because I can't figure this thing out. I mean, that's how it's always worked for me. You're not tapping out.
Exactly. I'm not tapping out, Lord. This is not my battle.
Mm-hmm.
I won't even attempt to fight it.
Yep.
I won't even attempt to fight that. I am completely open with wounds and missing a bone this much. My mind cannot even comprehend how my body even feels and how my body looks like. My mind cannot comprehend that. So when I surrendered and gave that to my Lord Jesus, literally, I'm not lying to you. All of a sudden, I heard, the audience who are listening, search up the voice of God. Literally heard this deep, calm, loving voice says to me in a single word, one word, my son, do not be afraid. I'm here. Period. He didn't repeat it. He didn't need to repeat it. He didn't need to say any extra things. He literally just said, my son, do not be afraid. And think, the Bible talks about do not be afraid. Almost the whole Bible talks about do not be afraid. So literally in that spirit, in the middle of my battle, in the middle of my spiritual battle, because it's a spiritual now, like your body has to surrender. Your body is under shock. Your body is under construction, I would say.
Yep.
But he said, my son, do not be afraid. And as soon as I heard that, the peace, the love that I felt after that was I can't even explain it to you. It's oh my goodness! If you did, it's crazy.
I can relate because where you've removed yourself from the strength equation.
Yes.
You're now just going to have to respond to whatever it is you're commanded, and that's how it works. I mean, for me, it's how it works. Yeah. I'm curious. Matt, as he was going through this thing, I mean, what what were your thoughts on this? Were you saying lower his medication, or were you like see if you?
No, I remember the one time, pretty fresh into it. I remember my son and I went up to go check out him and bring some shakes or whatever else, and they were switching nurses. One time we were in there, and I told my son, "Don't look." I made the mistake of looking. It looked like a movie scene almost. Like they have like the cage going around with the different rods at different angles, and in the middle holding.
Oh my gosh!
Those were all just sticking in his leg. And I remember seeing that. I was like, "Holy!"
A little rough.
This is legit. Like it, crazy. And I'm not good with that kind of stuff. So.
Well, I could see it. I could see when he was even describing it, like some of your mannerisms. It was like you're remembering, some
of just getting a mental picture of it. Yeah, it's like yesterday.
Yeah, exactly. That's
now my friend Matt was there. A lot of people in my life could not even handle it. A lot of people disappeared in my life after that. A lot. A lot of people they didn't want to even face that. But
I think you'll find out who your true friends are and all this stuff too. I mean, for me, when I went through homelessness, people wouldn't even look me in the eye. I became a non-person, and so I learned quickly who stays and who doesn't. And those people, Matt, your faithfulness will be rewarded. There was an individual being moved by God to change his life, and you were a faithful friend. You were a catalyst to him being healthy. And I believe that wholeheartedly. And I say fellow travelers all the time, because I've got a few in my life that are fellow travelers, that I'm not here today if they're not there. And other people in my life aren't going to be where they are if I'm not there. We show up, and that's what we do. And certain people have certain men, especially for men. We all think that we're tough guys. Some think they're tougher than others, but we really do need to have somebody at our wing. We need to make sure somebody's going to be there, because we're not strong every day. And that was a huge part that you played, a huge role you played in his life. And I know you don't need to hear that from me. You don't know me from Adam. I'm just a little crazy man over here in Western New York. But I mean, from what I hear of your story, it sounds pretty powerful to me.
Yeah. And you know what's crazy? Matt is the only, and I know he got to go here soon, but Matt is a man of few words. Okay. But
his few words are, do you know your left from your right? Nope.
So, but knowing that he can bring his son to watch Coach Jeff at his most vulnerable state in his life, the faith that is, Chris, that's faith in action. Sometimes we hear a lot of we hear faith most of the time, but when you are able to see faith in action, in movements, that's when it's so strong that it's just different. But
that's the taste and see part, taste and see God's good. Yeah, but it's different.
It's different. But Matt came out there, and he didn't say, he came there many times in the hospital, and he said nothing. He just was feeling it. A true friend really feels that. Not really. I'm not saying whoever was there and did not speak, but he was feeling it. He was feeling like, wow, he's really going through it. And so he only said this one thing, and that stuck to me was, Jeff, they may have taken your legs right now, but they did not steal or take your spirit or your mind. When he said that, I quickly gravitated towards that. There's power in our words. And when he said that, I quickly re-grasped my strength. I went to that. I was like, boom, whoa, my body is taking a back seat right now.
We all need those reminders. Right? We all need those reminders that our weakness, that our total value is not gone. I think
I definitely don't remember saying that.
I do.
I said I definitely don't remember saying that. But I'll take it.
That was part of the hallucination experience.
Yeah. It was, man.
Well, shoot, a couple times I went there and he would just be sleeping, and he'd wake up for maybe a minute and then be back asleep. Then he'd shoot me a text 2 days later. He's like, "Hey man, when you stopping by?" I'm like, "I just did 2 days ago."
Oh, see, those pain medication will not. Yeah. Hey, they will pull me to sleep in 2 seconds.
Well, he knew you were covered in Jello.
Yeah.
Mist in your mouth. No, your experience and the way you're describing. I mean, I think of one of the challenges I've had is being a convicted felon and being basically somebody that threw away a lot of opportunity because of addiction. It's real hard for me not to hear the story in my head that says that you're a drunk, you're a felon, you ruined your life, that type of thing. And where I found is that wallowing in that has actually defeated the purpose in me that God intended in the first place. So my job is to recognize I have value. I was brought through it because God knew I could go through it. I'm on the other side of it now to invest in other people's lives so they can have hope and help when they're feeling just so desperate, when they're feeling that way. When somebody's not making eye contact with them, I will. We have, that's an obligation I have, and that's actually a privilege I have, because I find that I'm only healthy when I'm giving back the pain that I once had and the lessons from that. And I would encourage you, if you haven't seen this already, as we start to get, I know, Matt, you have to leave, and we're kind of getting towards the end of the show anyway, but the best advice I could give you guys, and it's unsolicited, but it's Chris and Retro, so I got to give some advice, but is that give back that pain, give, and not the pain part of it, but give back that story and the lessons you have in real time. Because you don't have it. It's not, we think that tragedy and trauma and all this is like a neat box. Okay, here was the story. Here's the lesson. This is what I learned. The end. It's not like that. You're going to go through stages of this where there's going to be new things you're going to see, and there's going to be experiences you're going to run into. And Matt, for you too, you're going to have things that you're going to see that are going to remind you of this time, and it's going to be hurtful. Where we get to keep the victories of it is by giving them back and seeing that seed of hope manifest itself in somebody else's life when they're struggling. When I watch somebody climb out of the mud, I know that my mud mattered.
Wow.
Because I shared that story. And it's the greatest victory I have. And I look at in my own home right now, we're struggling. I'm looking at Sam and I'm heartbroken. I love her. I want her well. She's a trauma-based addict. And the things that have happened to her life, I don't know what I would be. And I look at her and I pray for her every single day and her hope and well-being. But I know that on the other side, the investment that she'll be able to have in somebody else's life is going to be tremendous. And I can't help, and I see the earmarks of a God working because he brought us together, both of us in these broken places, with the common goal of helping others be stronger. And I tell you, I can't imagine how you're going to impact kids' lives for sure. We have to get these kids in their head. We have to get ahead of the prevention and drug addiction in the world that we're working in, and alcoholism. The only place we're going to get it is kids, because once you're in it, I'm not sure there is prevention. That's right. We got to get ahead of it.
I see.
But I appreciate you guys both. Is there anything you guys would like to add as we're starting to wrap this up here? You guys can fight out who takes the floor first on this, but I want to see if you guys got anything you want to add in terms of closing or anything that we missed.
No, I was here more so just to listen more than anything. So
I appreciate you.
Yeah.
I feel like I laid a little too much sarcasm on you. I'm really sorry.
I'm, like he said, I'm in a few words. I'm kind of dry, quiet. I listen a lot more than I talk anyway. So it was
it's a great quality to have.
No, it really is. I wish I had it. You probably taken a lot of
Yeah. No, Chris, it's honestly been an honor. You also have a very powerful story, man. And you're gonna go out there and you impacting a lot of people with your podcast. I encourage you to keep doing it, man, because
I will.
The only thing that even matters is you impact that one person, man. Yep. And when Jesus was out there preaching to he started little, but his ministry grew because he was talking to that one. He always talks to that one, man. And so we are that one sometimes. You know what I mean? And if we're that one, we have to share our testimonies, our stories, and we have to keep our faith and stay disciplined and also stay resilient, because we have to stay resilient, man. And honestly, it's been an honor being on Chris in Retro. Yep. And really appreciate you having us, man. I hope we get connected again.
Oh, I would love to. I definitely want to. I'd love to stay part of your journey for sure.
Yes,
for the audience, guys, thanks for tuning in on this today. There's been a lot of things, and I'm looking at, Jeff's talking about his mindset and, having a healthy routine and your attitude in terms of how you approach each day. Those three things are critical for your life. But the other thing too is that we have to invest our stories and our victory moments in the lives of other people. We don't have to change people with those stories necessarily, but we could be that one seed added with the other seeds that have been entering their life because of God that lives, that might actually change their life for good and might give them the hope they need or the progress they need to turn to better days. I appreciate, both Matt and Jeff and their investment in youth. I don't know what you guys are doing in your week this week, but try to find opportunities at least once to see what you can do to positively impact some young person's life and give them a new option, a new choice that they might not have seen otherwise. I appreciate you guys tuning in. Please like and subscribe, comment on this. I'd love to hear your feedback. Between now and the next time we talk, I'm going to do everything I possibly can do to stay out of trouble, and I hope you do too.